Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pauper Premier League. I'm Alex Holman, and I'm back with Charles Jenkins, who's joining us again this week. How are you doing, Charles?
Doing good. Happy to be here again.
Yeah, you're here for the last week of the regular season. So we already got 4 people into the playoffs, and everyone's still live technically. You know, Ricardo is still live. He has to get 2 more wins. Both Michael and Kendra are alive, and Kendra has to run the table. But she's up right now against Michael Bonde and his 4-color Astrolabe deck. So what do you like in this matchup? Kendra seems to think that she is favored.
What I really like is the 4 copies of Ephemerate. That's going to be pretty big because how you win as
And that's
the
in Michael's
4-color.
deck, right?
Yeah, in Michael's deck. How you win on Michael's side is you assemble Archaeomancer and Ephemerate with Counterspell before Kendra is able to achieve a board state that you just can't get past. But overall, I do believe the Tron deck is favored just because it has a lot of redundancy and threats that come down a bit before Michael is going to be able to find that 2 of Archaeomancer.
Yeah. So the big thing that makes this the 4-color control is that copy of Pulse of Murasa. Otherwise, this looks like a pretty, not standard, but almost, you can take a look at a lot of Pauper decks these days, and you'll see probably the vast majority of these cards in any one of those Jeskai Ephemerate decks.
Yeah.
And Ephemerate's kind of the while Astrolabe's been getting a lot of talk, Ephemerate's kind of this card that helps to facilitate these kind of repetitive game states. What do you think about the card?
So I have a very strong opinion on Ephemerate. I've been
Oh, you do?
Yes, so actually I've been known to say the format right now, as far as I see it, is you play Ephemerate or you play aggro to get under Ephemerate. Because when you look at any mid-range or higher, you're seeing Archaeomancer Ephemerate in these 4-color list, or you're seeing Tron with Ephemerate.
Yeah.
And then that is the mid-range or late-game deck of the format, and then you see aggro, affinity, stompy, yada yada.
Yeah.
And that is kind of the state of the format as far as I see it. Less Astrolabe, more Ephemerate hate.
Yeah. Ephemerate's kind of just a tough card to hate out. You know, I played a bunch of leagues recently with there was a deck that went 5-0, not this past week, but 2 weeks ago, that was kind of I would say a fair Astrolabe deck in that it didn't have any Ephemerate tricks. It had Lightning, which is it's a decent card, especially when you pair it with Seeker of the Way, but it didn't do anything fancy. It just kind of dealt damage and attacked. And I was able to deal the damage to get around a lot of the Ephemerate tricks, but if the game went long, it just,
it's just really hard to surpass, yeah.
Yeah. So we're ready to go down. We're about to see what Ephemerate can do against Tron. Michael's hand is a little awkward. It has 3 colors, but no white. It does have 2 copies of Mulldrifter, which he can cast, but it looks like he's kept. Kendra, on the other hand, has 1 Tron piece, Rugged Highlands, Chromatic Sphere, and Ancient Stirrings, but does have 2 copies of Self-Assembler in hand. What do you think of these hands?
They're interesting. They're both on that line of do I keep or not. I think there's cases to be made on either side of if you keep. The big one, I think, on Kendra's, I always like seeing how aggressive people mulligan with Tron. I'm a very aggressive mulligan, so I think you can justify keeping this hand and, draw the Tron piece right off the top like Kendra just did. But
what happened? Because did we skip Michael's first turn?
Maybe we did. Because I'm seeing 8 cards.
Yeah, so it looks
like I'm seeing 8 cards. Yeah,
there might have been some miscommunication somewhere. We want these players to play the game correctly. So I'm not sure what's going to happen. Let's talk to our producer real quick. Yeah, because we want this game to be decided not by F6. Yeah, looks like we might be actually restarting this game. Again, this is an exhibition. We want the games to be decided by the games themselves, not things like the clock. So we're just giving it a second.
All right. They both decided to keep, though, which is pretty interesting.
So on that, let's talk about for a second about, it looks like we're going to be, not sure if we're restarting or not, but let's talk about the keeps. I don't hate Kendra's keep because I
probably would have mulled that hand.
So the only thing that gives me pause about mulliganing that hand, or rather the thing that makes me want to mulligan it, is the 2 copies of the Self-Assembler. Yeah, they're going to restart the match.
I think a Fair Assembler is just too slow. This deck, Tron, needs turn 4. If it doesn't get turn 4 Tron, it just loses.
But what
it has one Tron land, one Ancient Sturnings to find 2 Tron pieces. I'm a little hesitant to keep that.
At the same time, though, you are up against a deck where it is taking time to set up, and it's not like it's presenting these huge threats early. I agree that mulliganing aggressively is the way to do it, especially with the London mulligan. I'm actually more concerned by you're basically already at a 6-card hand because of 2 copies of Self-Assembler. You don't want to have 2 of those in your opening hand, ever. So,
well, with the way it works, I think you actually would want them in this matchup because you're playing against an opponent with 4 Counterspell, and the Assembler is probably the first threat you run out.
Fair. This is a much better hand from Kendra.
Yes.
And
that's the kind of hand you want with Tron.
Yeah, so...
I don't know if it's actually that good of a hand in this matchup. Scred is pretty slow. There's no Astrolabe to speed it up. It's not going to kill anything anytime soon.
I think that's a easy mulligan, like Scred, and Michael.
Yeah, if I'm on the play, I mulligan that. If I'm on the draw, I'm more inclined to keep it, but I'm not sure if I do.
And looks like Michael might keep his 6. We're about to find out. But Kendra's hand is going to present a turn 3/4 flyer that replaces itself.
Yeah, it's probably the best threat in this matchup, especially early, because your opponent is looking to nickel and dime you. And the Wretched Gryff is always going to be a 2-for-1 in your favor. There's nothing the opponent can do about it. Counterspell won't stop it. Removal doesn't stop it. You get your value.
Yeah, Counterspell will stop it in the sense that you won't get the threat, but it does just trade straight up for the Counterspell. You get to replace it with the card on the cast trigger. Yeah. We might just see that happen.
As the control player, I usually decide... I hate countering Wretched Gryff because you want to spend your removal on it because your removal is always going to be trading with the body and your opponent might have card advantage creatures like Self-Assembler. You want to save your counter spells for stuff that has enter the battlefield triggers.
Yeah.
So removing a Gryff because you're getting 2-for-1 anyways is probably better.
I mean, if you're Michael, you're kind of hoping to draw a Scred.
He has the Scred
rather
a red
mountain,
source. Yeah.
Kendra does not have access to a native green source, but can go get one with that next expedition map. But if I'm Kendra, I think I'm just slamming Gryff here, right?
Oh, yeah. I like slamming Gryffs very aggressively because there's nothing your opponent can do about it. The card's going to get value. So I tend to not respect my opponent's open mana with it.
Kendra especially...
she's the aggressor here.
Turn.
Kendra needs to be aggressive in this matchup. Bonde does have a slowly closing door, because when he assembles Archaeomancer Ephemerate, the game ends. So I kind of feel like Kendra should be more aggressive.
It looks like what Kendra is trying to do is resolve 2 threats in a turn.
That's a very hard thing to do for this Temur Tron list, because yes, they do have Tron mana, but at the same time, all of their threats are put in the deck with the idea of I'm casting them when I have Tron mana, so they're very expensive.
So Kendra resolves a Fangren Marauder, which looks like it's going to eat a Scred here.
Yep. Like I said, you'd rather use your removal on stuff that doesn't get value on enter the battlefield, so he holds on to that counterspell. And
Kendra does not make the move of cracking the map just for the 5 life.
And here's a big showcase of what, it's not quite yet, but Ephemerate here in his hand means that any Mulldrifter or Archaeomancer off the top is just going to put Bonde miles ahead of Kendra here, because it's either going to be 4 cards or a counterspell every single turn.
Yeah.
If he finds those.
So now Kendra has the opportunity to go. There's a pretty big threat in Ulamog's Crusher. So I think if you're Kendra here, you don't go for Crusher as much as I still think you want to go for Gryff, right?
I might be inclined to slam Crusher because I'm closer to casting 2 Gryffs in a turn than a Crusher and a Gryff.
Fair.
because now we're just one tower away from getting there. Let's the Crusher resolves. He doesn't have 2 red.
He does not have 2 red, I think.
He was planning on spending double removal spell, and then he just realized, Astro off the top fixes it, though.
Get rewarded. So now, another scred. And he does not have enough snow permanents to make it work, but doesn't quite matter.
It's a pretty interesting choice of deciding to spend 2 removal spells here.
You know, it makes sense because the removal spells, Kendra does not have that many threats, and this game played out a lot differently than I thought it would. I'll leave it at that. I'm interested to see what ends up happening with this Haunted Fengraf.
Kendra wants to get back a Wretched Gryff with the Fengraf. That is the best target for it.
Better than the Crusher at this point.
I would say so, because like I said, Gryff is always a 2-for-1, and while my opponent doesn't have the Ephemerate combo assembled, I just want to grind them down as well as possible.
So how important is this Rolling Thunder in Kendra's hand right now? It's kind of just been sitting there and not doing a whole lot, but how important is it long term?
I don't think it's very relevant. There aren't very many creatures you care about removing. If you're able to get your opponent to a life total like 12 or so, it's pretty hard to Rolling Thunder for more than 12. You usually have had a threat stick around for a while, and that means you're kind of ahead because your threat's stuck. So it's kind of a win more card as far as I'm concerned.
So we're going to see a lot of cards drawn this turn. So Michael is going to put the Evoke trigger on the stack, Ephemerate, so he's going to end up drawing 4 cards. And then I think
we're going to see him hold on to the second Ephemerate because we know Kendra has 4 removal spells in her deck of 3 Flame Slash and the Rolling Thunder, and they're all sorcery speed.
Yeah, and even if that's pretty good.
There's the Archaeomancer and 3 Ephemerate. So what this represents, once the Archaeomancer hits the table, is 3 counterspells or 3 removal spells every single turn from those Ephemerates. And
how does that work? Explain how the stacking of that works.
So the way Ephemerate works, Archaeomancer gets back a spell, right? You play Ephemerate, the first trigger, once Ephemerate resolves, it has to resolve the, what's the name of the ability? It's blanking my Rebound, there we go. Yeah. Blanked my mind for a second. The Rebound triggers and Ephemerate goes into exile. So your Archaeomancer blanks, gets back a spell, and then on the next turn, if your Archaeomancer is still alive, you get to play Ephemerate and rebuy Ephemerate with the Archaeomancer trigger.
So this is going to be interesting. This is actually a neat little interplay. It looks like, let's see.
Kendra I'm inclined to not block.
Yeah. Kendra can play 2 threats this turn. She can play both Mulldrifter and Crusher. Which, let's see. How many snow permanents does Michael have? He has 8. So that Crusher is not long for this world. But Kendra's going to be able to Mulldrifter herself. And that means, while she is still down on cards, she does have stuff she can do.
Cards don't matter anymore. What matters is being able to play more threats than Bonde is able to remove, because now he has a regrowth to 1 to 3 regrowths every turn. So you just have to deploy more threats than he's able to efficiently answer. And that's not looking very likely. Like, this is kind of Kendra's last window here while he's tapping out for the Archaeomancer, because it's a pretty big cost of 4 mana.
Still, he did leave up 2 blue for Counterspell, so Kendra has to... Yeah, I'm not sure what Kendra can do to get out of this. I mean, I never want to count out Temur Tron, because it does have that opportunity to kind of just assemble a ton of stuff, but it looks like Kendra's kind of leaning on this.
Kendra's best bet is to deploy several threats in a turn, because she still has 5 damage in the air this turn. That's a pretty low life total. And sneak through this Rolling Thunder somehow. Mon's mana is still a little constricted. And the window is slowly closing, but he's going to have to spend these first few Ephemerates getting screds to remove this air pressure. So there is a chance that Bonde has to tap low and Rolling Thunder gets through.
I mean, you said, what's that key number? 12? It's hard to Rolling Thunder for more than 12 in a turn?
Yep.
Michael's at 12, but it looks like he's going to just draw 3 cards this turn off of Ephemerate.
I think we're actually going to see him Ephemerate and Scred because he only has 2 color sources for white here.
Oh, true.
So it's either Ephemerate, or Ephemerate Scred. I almost like...
Kendra, what are you looking for?
Pressure. Anything. Doesn't really matter what, as long as it's a creature with power and toughness. Preferably the flying creatures because of the Archaeomancer Ephemerate, but really any pressure is good here.
So it looks like Kendra does have, if she gets to that point, she does have enough mana to deal lethal with Rolling Thunder if Michael ever just leaves his shields down with the counterspell.
What I'd actually like to see here is Michael go for the double Ephemerate because he's got a bunch of Screds in his graveyard and get 2 Screds here, and then on his upkeep, because he has 2 Ephemerate triggers, spend 1 getting back an Ephemerate and spend the other getting back a 3rd Scred, so that way I don't have to invest the white mana and for the 3rd Scred to remove the threats that are on the table right now. So that way I just have a tiny bit more mana up. Because Ephemerate can always rebuy another Ephemerate.
Yeah, but it looks like he's just going for the less mana intense play of just getting the Scred. And now he Ephemerates getting back
Second removal spells.
Yeah. And we've gotten to a point where Michael kind of has this game on lock. It's just a matter of it's all over but the actual winning.
Yeah, this is my favorite Magic term. Michael has a very hard soft lock assembled. It's not really possible to push through it, but it's not technically a hard lock.
So let's see. If Kendra goes for this Mulldrifter,
Michael has 2 counters this turn as well as a Scred. Yeah, he has mana for the Scred. So he can counter Ephemerate, get back that counter spell, and then cast a Scred after. I'd like to see an aggressive counter on the Mulldrifter then. Let's it resolve though.
Let's it resolve. Kendra gets a redraw with the Star. You know what? I think Michael realizes that like you said, the cards don't matter. There's really not much Kendra can do to present a threat. The only card that really matters in Kendra's deck right now is that Rolling Thunder, because it's the threat that Scred can't handle.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty hard to push through. Kendra doesn't actually know about the counterspell, but if you've ever played against blue decks, you always know they found the first by now at least. It's just kind of a rule of blue.
Yeah, I think that Kendra knows that her path to victory involves overloading on threats, and there's not much that Kendra can do here. Michael has the counter. He's just preserving everything he can do to make his life easier in the long run. But Michael also, well, I would say he doesn't have a clock, but he does.
He doesn't need a clock with his...
And that lightning bolt in his graveyard.
Yeah, his combo assembled, he doesn't really need a clock either.
No.
He can very realistically just run Kendra out of threats in her entire deck without ever dealing a point of damage.
Oh, there's that card mana creature you were talking about, Self-Assembler. So
I think we'll see the counterspell finally fired off on that one.
Next turn, probably.
Ephemerate
gets back Ephemerate. 2 Ephemerates come off rebound. Let's see what Michael draws. First Ephemerate gets back Scred.
I'd see the second one get back another Scred.
No, it gets back the Ephemerate. Draws the 4th Ephemerate. Oh, God.
Oh, my. And this is why Ephemerate's so strong. With Ghostly Flicker, it can be hard to cast multiple on your same dude to get back a bunch of spells, but Ephemerate, with the way it works out, especially with rebound triggers, you can just do them all individually. So one Archaeomancer is facilitating 4 spells a turn from your graveyard.
And it's not that Ephemerate in and of itself is this incredibly broken magic card. It plays into a theme that blue and white have gotten so many times, the blink theme. And it is one of the most efficient iterations of that, in that it's 1 mana for 2 blink triggers. And it's not too good. It's just too good in Pauper, where spells matter so much. and you see creatures like Archaeomancer and Mnemonic Wall just seeing tons of play.
Ephemerate seeing play in Modern, the latest Soul Hoarder deck.
The Soul Hoarder deck, yeah.
Yeah. I think they use the same combo, but with Eternal Witness.
Yeah.
To buy back spells. And
you know what? Kendra was able to play 3 4/4s this turn. They are not going to matter because Michael has triple Ephemerate to get back all the Screds.
He's showing some incredible patience on this counterspell. I probably would have jammed it on the assembler just because I know my opponent can't play enough threats in a turn to really constrict that counterspell enough yet. And that saves me 3 Screds.
But you're going to have him no matter what.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's a matter of time.
And for comparison, Ephemerate is 1 mana for 2 blinks. The closest analog that I can think of is Momentary Blink of 2 mana with a flashback of 4 mana.
Yeah.
And it can't buy itself back or buy another spell and itself back like Ephemerate can. It's quite a big upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, the old Momentary Blink decks were good, but they weren't this dominant. And Ghostly Flicker is just a completely different card. I think Kendra knows the writings on the wall here. I'm not sure what she can do to draw out of this.
I think she's playing to her outs because Michael hasn't actually shown the counterspell yet. There is a chance Michael hasn't drawn it. He hasn't actually played has he played any cantrips this game, or is it just 1 or 2? I can't quite tell. But there haven't been many cantrips. It's possible there's no counterspell. I'd play it out.
Looks like there's a Brainstorm and 2 copies of Astrolabe.
Well, Astrolabe's not really library manipulation. That's just kind of a card off the top.
It's a cantrip. It replaces itself. Kendra's making a fight of it. Has drawn 2 big threats to go with the 1 in hand. But she's not going to be able to get
I think this game is...
Well...
I don't want to say it's guaranteed over, but it's looking pretty over.
How many threats can Kendra present this turn? Because Michael can only counter 2 spells.
19, 20 mana?
Well, more with the crop rotation.
Yeah.
Crop rotation can get the 4th tower. Let's see. Yeah, because... Okay.
Do you get rid of the cave or another Tron land?
I can't tell what she got rid of, but it looked like a Tron land.
Yeah, she got rid of a mine.
Michael just does not care. He is holding this counterspell like it's the last card that matters. It's been in his hand since the opener. And yeah, I mean... But Michael can only cast 3 Screds this turn, it looks like.
Yeah, he's a little constricted on his colors. He has all the Ephemerates assembled, but he can only cast 3 a turn with his current white mana, and that leaves room for 1 Scred, which is... I guess it's not going to really matter, but I seem to be stuck on him casting this counterspell more aggressively. That's all I want to see.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Kendra can do. I mean, I feel like we've kind of been in this lock state for a number of the world's saddest spell starter sprite right there.
Yeah, the spell starter sprite is kind of a tech choice. It's really great in the Ephemerate mirrors.
Absolutely.
It's just really awesome there for obvious reasons, but in this matchup, it's not so good. I think we're going to see it cut post-board.
I mean, I used to love leaving in spell starter sprite against Tron just because they never respected it. And so I'd be able to get Ancient
Stirrings. It might stay in because there's quite a few cards I'd like to cut from Bonde's side, simply because I win the game through Archaeomancer, not through actual pressure. So cards like Riftwatcher and Kor Skyfisher I'm less inclined to like.
Yeah.
At the same time, there's not a lot to bring in.
No. I mean, this is a tough matchup traditionally for the control deck here. But the longer the game goes, you know what? Bonde could Kendra is going for the Rolling Thunder.
So we're going to see it.
We might finally see the Counterspell. And I think if I'm Kendra, that might prompt me to scoop it up.
Oh, yeah.
Just saying.
Darn, they always have it.
Yeah, Kendra saw the writing there. I mean, to be fair, Michael was almost 40 cards deep in his deck. So.
Oh, yeah. I know. I was just joking. I'm actually really curious to watch Bonde's sideboarding here, as well as Kendra's.
Looks like Michael is bringing more hard removal, Journey Nowhere. He's considering... Looks like he's considering Pyroblast, but that doesn't make sense.
Well, there's a lot of cards that are mediocre, because you have cards like... the one that catches my eye the most is Aven Riftwatcher. I want to get that on my deck. I'd run Pyroblast, even if there's only 4 Mulldrifters. I think that's still better than the 2 Riftwatchers there.
Michael decides to bring in Standard Bearer.
There's only the 3 Flame Slash, right?
Yeah, and the Rolling Thunder can target it and something else. Kendra looks like has brought in the Relic, which is fine if slow, as Graveyard Hate. What is your preferred method of Graveyard Hate these days?
I don't think it's very good against Ephemerate because of the way it exiles itself when you cast it, so you can use Ephemerates to protect your other Ephemerates. So it's just very hard to interact with in the graveyard.
Kendra took a mulligan and is keeping 2 Tron lands and a Ancient Stirring Sphere and Relic. But how's
a pretty solid hand?
Michael's hand also solid, if slow. This is the kind of hand that if Kendra just
actually not that great. Lightning Bolt doesn't remove anything in Kendra's deck by itself. There are negligible amount of Dispel targets. It's kind of the card number 60 type cards I'm looking at there, and Spellstutter Sprite. It's a little slow on the draw. I'm more inclined to like it on the play, but on the draw it's quite slow.
Does Kendra get Tron? She does get Tron next turn.
Just needs the threat.
We'll get a redraw off that Prism.
Yep.
Michael draws another land. Kendra is in prime position right now to do something. Kendra brought in Gorilla Shaman.
Spellstutter Sprite's gonna get a target. Kendra respects the counterspell on her Prism. I can see that.
Yeah. I think she... I don't know if she's playing around Spellstutter Sprite, but what do you think about bringing Gorilla Shaman here?
How many planes does Bonde run? I didn't check. 1 planes? I like it. My opponent runs 4 Ephemerate, and if they're relying on Astrolabe that much with only 1 copy of planes to Ephemerate with, because like I said, how they win is Ephemerate Archaeomancer. So if you can limit the amount of spells they can buy back per turn by 3, because you bring them down to 1 Ephemerate a turn instead of 4, I kind of like that.
Yeah, I've said before that I don't love I don't love artifact removal against Astrolabe because you're kind of down a card. Gorilla Shaman's kind of one of those exceptions because it sits around and can eat multiple copies of Astrolabe, but still
I agree, but
it does make sense here as a way to choke sources.
Deck lists are a known quantity.
Yeah.
Against an unknown opponent, I'm going to assume their mana base is a bit more resilient just because I tend to not like bringing in high variance cards like that as a Magic player, but if I know my opponent's going to be on 1 planes, I do like the Gorilla Shaman a lot.
Yeah, 1 plane seems a little greedy in a deck with 4 Ephemerates.
Oh, yeah.
And this Spellstutter Sprite is going to get its value.
And Kendra's not quite out of gas. She has a Fengraf and another one off this expedition map, but Bonde is in an okay position. It's kind of an undecided game right now. Both players are doing all right. No one's a clear winner right now.
Bonde seems to not be ahead, but has the removal for whatever basically Kendra tries to do. And this is really going to come down to what comes off Kendra's top deck.
Kendra really wants a Crusher right here. Bonde can only have 7 Snow Permanents next turn, so it's kind of the last window for it to get under Scred.
Well, there is that Cave of Temptation.
It's a little hard to go for if my opponent has mana up, so that's why I'm saying this is the last turn to find it.
Yeah.
Because pretty soon Bonde is going to have 8 Snow Permanents. I guess next turn if I go Crusher and Cave, she has enough mana for that. Exactly enough to go Cave and Crusher in the same turn if she finds it next turn.
but Marauder is a decent card, but not great.
5/5 is a 5/5. No wrong threat, only wrong answers.
Did Kendra miss the land drop that turn?
I believe she played, it was either the Fengraf or the Cave.
Oh, that's right. I missed the Fengraf. That Counterspell looks like it might be snapped off a lot more quickly this game.
I think we're going to see a bolt on this Gryff and then a scred on the Fangren. I don't think Counterspell's coming down.
That's fair. So if I'm Kendra, I think I want to play out those stars first. I always like having the cogs on the battlefield first, because that way if what we think is going to happen happens and Michael fires off this scred, I'm at least getting some life out of it. Michael doesn't seem to care. He doesn't value the life.
Well,
makes sense.
Michael wins by not losing in this matchup, so the life total is fairly irrelevant for him.
Yeah, so what do you think of that? There seems to be a there seems to be a number of decks that are out there in Pauper right now that win by not losing. What do you think about that?
Most of them involve Ephemerate. The card's just very good at not losing. And when you assemble Ephemerate, it doesn't really matter what your opponent's life total is usually.
So I guess, what do you think? Should anything be done about that card, or is it just a case of the format hasn't adjusted yet?
It's been around for a while.
I think it's been around for about 2.5 months.
Yeah, so I'm kind of hesitant to say we should wait. I enjoy playing Ephemerate. Let's put that out on the table right here. I love combo. I love Ephemerate. So I'm trying to stay objective here and not subjective. The card's very powerful, but it hasn't exactly dominated. I think it really depends on how you look at the format, whether you do see it as Ephemerate versus aggro, or if you see it as there's several Ephemerate decks fighting several aggro decks, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can kind of break the metagame down into these weird chunks where there's this top end of the Tron flicker loop decks, which are really more like prison decks in that they try to lock you out of doing anything by assembling that, and they do it very quickly thanks to the mana engine of Tron. You then also have these mid-range decks, which are everything from a prison endgame to a value endgame. They all tend to revolve around Astrolabe and Ephemerate and Archaeomancer in some number. Usually it's 4 Astrolabe and then between 2 and 3 Archaeomancer and 1 and 4 Ephemerate.
Yeah.
And then you have a whole gamut of aggressive decks. But I think the most popular ones are the Burning Tree Emissary decks, your Stompy and your Red Deck Win.
Yeah, Affinity was really popular here for a while and then fell off the face of the earth. The life of a deck that folds to hate. Yeah,
Affinity is, not that it's dredge, but it's kind of the dredge of the format in that it does well when people aren't packing removal. Or rather,
like we saw Kendra's Gorilla Shaman here. That card's quite good against Affinity. So is Fangren Marauder, for that fact.
Oh, absolutely. Fangren Marauder can make things very difficult for ATOG. But not impossible, as I found out quite a few times.
I've been battle raged by a very, very large ATOG with Fangren on the table before.
So the Affinity player can do this thing where they use active player, non-active player to make their ATOG big enough before the Fangren Marauder triggers resolve, I believe.
No, because with the way it works, the power doesn't grow until the Tron player has already gained their 5. The only way it's possible is through Battle Rage, I believe. Because you can Battle Rage, deal damage, and then fling. So you're getting 6 damage per artifact while your opponent's gaining 5.
Michael has yet to find the Ephemerate, so he hasn't gotten the lock yet.
Nobody's in a very solid position with a removal spell and 2 more counters to follow up. Kendra has found all 3 Gryffs, which is the best card for a grindy game like this where the Ephemerate hasn't shown up, but it's still looking like it might not be enough here. Draws another throw off of that. That's going to help out a lot.
Yeah, another Gryff, Fangren Marauder, Rolling Thunder. And Michael, while not choked on mana, can only do so many things a turn because he doesn't have the Ephemerate.
He's choked on removal here because he's going to be able to remove one threat and counter another, and then there'll be one left over here. And Michael does not have the answer for that yet.
Yeah, but as we all know, you're only one draw away at any point from this deck from going off with the 4
Yeah, we're
copies of
looking at.
Ephemerate.
Let's both threats resolve. Interesting.
I mean, like you said, his life totals don't matter in this matchup except if it's 1. But
well, Bonde's life total matters a whole lot because he is he's trying to not lose here, and Kendra is the beatdown.
Kendra is the beatdown, but at this point, Michael has quite a few turns. Second relic might matter. It just makes life a little harder for Michael, but that Spellstar Sprite is going to eat it for breakfast. If you're Michael, do you counter this second Marauder? I think you have to. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. You're just running out of time on your life.
But we're getting to a point where without Ephemerate, Kendra is in position to Rolling Thunder for lethal. But
well, the first Ephemerate is going to either eat the spell Michael gets back or eat the Ephemerate. I'm not sure which is better here because you only get one or the other.
Yeah.
So the first Ephemerate is not going to be a soft lock yet. It's going to get value, but it's not going to get as much value as we saw last game. Pulse of Murasa is not so good into Relic either.
No, but Michael can set up a block where he can at least attempt to gain some life. It's not going to work out because of that Relic. He's going.
I think Pulse works very well because it's kind of like Ephemerate number 5 and the fact that it forces the Relic issue.
Yeah.
So if you can go ahead and Pulse, and Kendra thinks it's worthwhile to crack the Relic in response, you can go ahead and Ephemerate and get back a spell before they're all exiled.
The funny thing is, you cannot block Kendra's threats with Archaeomancer here. But you can block with Skyfisher and Pulse it back.
Michael has one more turn on board. One more attack step. So 2 more draw steps for him.
Yeah, but he's going to see quite a few cards this turn. If he goes for the Pulse on the Skyfisher, he'll be able to either Skyfisher back a...
Do you think Kendra will crack the Relic? If Kendra cracks the Relic, that's going to leave him with not much to work with.
I mean, I think
no removal spells to Ephemerate back.
I think if I'm Kendra, I crack Relic here.
I believe I do too.
She lets it resolve. Okay, so if I'm Michael, I pick up the Archaeomancer. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm in a much better position. By not playing it, that basically signals I have the counterspell. Oh, no, playing it. Do you get back Pulse of Murasa here?
I get back Scred, yeah.
What's the merit? Is there merit to getting back Pulse of Murasa and setting up that kind of loop?
Because you can't block the Archaeomancer to kill it, you do have the Kor Skyfisher, but with opponent's Relic on board, I think it's going to get stopped either way. I would rather get the Scred. Yeah.
So Kendra has presented a 2-turn clock.
So Michael doesn't have removal, but an Ephemerate is infinite blockers here because you can blink your Skyfisher with the first half that picks up your blocking Spellstutter Sprite, and then the second half gets Ephemerate back, and that gives you 2 blockers that flicker every turn. Kendra so that'll keep them alive.
Kendra looks like she's going for Rolling Thunder, which is...
I
think you have to, but it's not going to work out. And that leaves Michael with 2 turns because he can block, and block and draw.
Mm-hmm.
So is this Ephemerate?
I kind of would have liked to see a more conservative Rolling Thunder for 5 on your face because I know you have no more life gain. You've played your Pulse already. And that way I can go ahead and crack this Sphere to dig for another threat.
Well, Kendra doesn't know that he sided out the Riftwatcher. And
Well,
Yeah.
instant speed life gain because
Fair.
Thunder ends the game.
Mulldrifter is a huge draw for Kendra here.
Yeah, this game is looking like Bonde he never found that Ephemerate, so it's gonna end here. It's not quite out of it, but it's a pretty rough spot.
Yeah, he has to. I think his best draw here is Mulldrifter, evoke it for Ephemerate. Then flicker the Mulldrifter to see 2 more cards. And
I think you hardcast, draw Ephemerate, and maybe like a removal spell or something,
Fair.
and then you can block Ephemerate to just go ahead and get that extra body around.
You
have enough mana
Ephemerate than I have.
Yeah, mana is not the bottleneck here. So I'm commentating with Michael next. I'm really curious about this Augur. There's only 4 Preordain and 22 spells with this Augur of Bolas.
And he sees Mulldrifter land. So we're going to game 3. So we're going to game 3 with Michael on the play. That game didn't, while I think Kendra's advantage, that didn't really play out how I think Tron versus Ephemerate usually plays out. In that,
no, it didn't.
But we're remaking the match because both players are a little low on time. So if you're Michael, are you just hoping to draw Ephemerate? I mean, you're running 4, right?
Yes, you put 4 in your deck to draw it. You only have 2 Archaeomancer because Ephemerate Mulldrifter finds you that Archaeomancer 4 cards is a lot. What we actually saw this last game was a traditional control versus Temur Tron. The Wretched Gryff grinded it out because Michael didn't have that, oh, I have all of the cards in the world now. Card advantage no longer matters. That didn't show up.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if things go according to Kendra's plan or to Michael's plan this time around. I
really like Michael's spot on the play here, simply because Spell Stutter Sprite, Kendra is going to be casting 1-drops on the first 2 turns of the game. So if he has a turn 2 Spell Stutter Sprite, that's going to be pretty brutal if Kendra is relying on that to find Tron. So if you're casting an Ancient Stirrings, digging for that 3rd piece, something like that.
Yeah. But I wonder if Michael's going to leave in the Spell Star Sprites this time around. He didn't really see a ton of targets, so
I think you have to because Michael just has a lot of cards that aren't that great in the matchup and not enough cards to bring in.
Fair.
Because I think you automatically cut those 2 Riftwatchers.
Yeah.
We saw Dispel, of which I don't even know, there's 1, maybe 2 targets in Kendra's deck. And we know that's still in there, so it just kind of shows that there's not a lot of targets or not a lot of cards to bring in for Bonde here. Yeah,
it looks like they're just resetting their sideboards to where they were at the end of the last game.
Well, they reset, so they had to go ahead and concede game 1 where they're unsideboarded already, and they're going to have to sideboard again here. How many targets does Kendra have? I'd almost like to see a Pyroblast more. I only see Crop Rotation. Electrickery, I guess, post-board, but
I wouldn't be bringing Electrickery here.
Yeah, there's only the 4 Spell Stutter Sprites. I'd like to see a Pyroblast over that Dispel then. Looking over the list a bit closer.
So we're just having a few technical difficulties. We are, looks like from what I saw, Kendra's hand was not great. It looked like it had 1 Tron piece.
I didn't quite catch it. I was looking over the deck list. Here we are.
Yep.
I'd probably mulligan that.
Kendra's, yes, I would mulligan that. It is.
I quite like Bonnie's hand here, though. It's got Spell Stutter Sprite turn 2. It's got the turn 1 Astro with Counterspell. It's just a very, very solid hand here.
Yeah.
Pretty hard to ask for a better one.
Yeah, but Kendra, I think, even with that relic, you have to mulligan.
Yeah, I think so. You have 2 redraws through the rocks, but I don't think it's close enough to Tron that it's worthwhile to keep even on the draw.
What are your graveyard hate of choice against the Ephemerate decks these days, both Tron and non-Tron?
I don't think I've run any in the past. Past few decks I've made are my own Tron list, of course, and I actually built the original banned Ephemerate list that we saw Joseph on last week. He had his own take on it, but I built the original one. I had Coiling Oracle with Ephemerate. I also ran no graveyard hate there because it's very hard to fight over Ephemerate with graveyard hate. Because you can play the first one and the second one saves the first one. So it's just very hard to get an efficient trade on it. And sideboard slots are a premium.
Kendra kept that hand with 1 Tron, no way to find more Tron. And
I don't like it. It's kind of one of the things of Temur Tron is you need Tron.
Yeah.
It's not like the other blue Tron list where you can just get away with playing Mulldrifter on turn 4, turn 5.
But Michael's hand is kind of awkward in that he didn't get a 3rd land drop.
He has a Brainstorm to dig here, though. I think I go for it.
Well, do you have Brainstorm for dig or do you Skyfisher for pressure? Well,
I'm the control player here. I Brainstorm for lands.
And he finds them.
Can't keep up Counterspell, though, because it is that plains. So we're probably gonna see double Astro here. Or just Skyfish, all right.
Yeah,
I don't hate that either.
Pick up Astro.
I don't hate it.
Yeah. So now Kendra's really looking for a Tron piece. That is
very slow.
Yeah. I think you crack the star for green. Hope to rip an Ancient Stirrings. And that is not Ancient Stirrings, so...
And any Ancient Stirrings off the top is going to get hit by a Ephemerate on that Spellstutter Sprite.
Yeah, this...
I think we're going to see Bonde pass here.
Yeah.
He just undid his Brainstorm lock. The top card is a mystery, but you want to hold up Counterspell here. You just notice your opponent stumbled in a very big way of playing map and missing a land drop. Not even close to Tron yet. Well, a bit closer now, but no guaranteed Tron yet. I quite like holding up interaction for any search that finds that next Tron piece.
Michael is going aggressive. He knows that Kendra does not have much. He knows that his best bet is to be as aggressive as possible. And right now he is pretty well set. He can scred for 6 or 7 depending on the turn. He can flicker the Spellstar Sprite to counter any 1-drop. He has Counterspell.
Got 2 more Counterspells, yeah.
I think Michael has...
I would have liked to see the weight on the Lightning Bolt, but you always have to count into that intimidation factor. Instant bolt you when you're at 13, your opponent has hardly any pressure. That's always so intimidating because that's like, oh crap, my opponent's hand is stacked because they're bolting me and just throwing this resource away.
So Kendra is going to have to evoke Mulldrifter here, and I think if you're Bonde, you let it resolve.
I think I counter it. My opponent's digging for Tron, and 2 cards is quite a lot of looks for Tron.
This is why Michael has a Pro Tour top 8 and I don't. So, or rather, a Mythic Championship top 8. And Michael just
Ephemerate there. I think we're going to see Michael. I think we're going to see him hold on to it for a while until he hits at least another land drop, so he can go ahead and hold up this Counterspell for longer.
But he is playing the Astrolabe.
Yeah, he's very far ahead here. He's going to win by pressure most likely.
And a second Counterspell.
Yeah, so the way he wins this game is by not tapping it. There's Tron.
I think it's too little too late.
I think so too. Michael has the answers for the next few turns. So Kendra's just not going to be able to mount enough of a resistance.
Well, a lot is going to depend on whether or not Kendra can find enough cogs, like stars and spheres, to buffer her life total. I
think we're going to see a Counterspell on the Fangren. I think it's just not going to resolve.
Michael doesn't Ephemerate the Sprite to counter the Stirrings.
So Ephemerate, you could always choose to not go for the rebound, but I kind of like the conservativeness there because the bottleneck is how many threats Kendra can play in a turn. Ancient Stirrings doesn't really allow her to play an extra, it just finds another threat. And that's fairly irrelevant.
And Michael
when the game's going to end before she plays her hand.
Michael has 2 Counterspells up.
Oh, yeah. Gorilla Shaman's not a whole lot of help here.
No. And it just looks like, that I think Kendra should have taken that mulligan. It was a hand full of hate, but I don't love Relic against the Astrolabes.
It's not bad per se, but It's not enough to keep a sketchy hand on.
Well, rather, I don't like Relic against Ephemerates, and I don't like Gorilla Shaman against Astrolabes all that much, even with Tron mana.
Relic's floor is always just going to be a cantrip. It's not that hard to run it, but slots are usually a premium. Temur Tron has a bit more leeway here, but it doesn't stop the core of the game plan, and there's no guarantee it even stops the Ephemerate part of the game plan.
Yeah. So Michael, Kendra buys herself a turn by potentially turning off a...
Well, Bonde didn't have lethal here anyways.
Yeah.
3 power versus 4 life, so fairly free Ephemerate there.
Yeah. And do you even cast this Ephemerate? Yeah, you pick up...
You have lethal next turn, no matter which one you blank, so you can go ahead and pick up an Astrolabe for a free draw here. Probably go ahead and see the Augur if nothing good comes off the top from this Astro.
Preordain's a pretty good card.
Yeah, probably play Preordain over Augur here. I've got 2 flyers, and if my opponent plays a flying blocker, I don't have lethal even with Augur on board. So I kind of just want to, if I draw a Scred off that Preordain and my opponent plays 2 threats, it's a bit more mana efficient. Either way is fine, though. I think Michael's in the driver's seat and looking likely to pick this one up.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's anything Kendra can really do at this point. Michael has lethal in the air. Kendra basically needs to... Yep.
Cannot play the counterspell fast enough.
Nope. And it looks like Michael advances to 3-1. Kendra is...
Did Kendra keep in Flame Slash? I didn't pay enough attention in sideboarding.
Well, she's cracking... She cracked the star for green, so I'm guessing no.
She still has that Cave of Temptation there, so I think cracking for green's fine there.
But
guessing not because we didn't see those relics cracked.
So that means Kendra is officially eliminated from playoff contention.
No. Not running the table this time.
No, but next up, she's up against the Tree Folk Tribe and Core combo list, and you like Adam's chances here.
Oh yeah, I think it's a very heavy favorite for the tribe list. Kendra has 4 interaction spells, all of which are sorcery that don't really stop the combo, and with the way Spiritualist and Encore work, as long as you play both of them in the same turn, you can't kill either.
Yeah.
So it's a very resilient combo to Kendra's choice interaction for this week.
So looks like we're ready to go to a commercial break. You'll be back in here with Michael in just a few minutes, but until then, I'll be back a little bit later. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in a little bit.
All right, see y'all.